Hello, how are you? It's me again, Ken Simmons for Area 58 Community Access Media. And this is the shortest 30 minutes on television. Glad to be with you as always, because if it wasn't for you, there'd be no need for me. I got a special guest, but all my guests are special. You're going to meet her in just a little while. She's charming, romantic, adventurous, informative, intelligent. What else can I say? She's going to give you one heck of a good time, so don't go away, because I'm just going to tell you a couple of stories. You know, my intention when I did these shows was to give you the headlines in the paper and tell you this and tell you that, but I like to run a show that's a little upbeat, and the headlines are certainly not upbeat. You know, North Korea's going to blow us off the face of the earth, and Trump is this, and they just indicted this guy, and this guy is doing that. So let me tell you a story that happened a long time ago, old log cabin stories. The company I worked for decided to have their sales meeting, annual sales meeting. Everybody comes in from the field in Las Vegas, which was great. And we went there, we saw some shows, had the sales meeting, and when we had dinner, they always arranged for one of the stars that was appearing in Las Vegas at that time to sit down at the table with us. They didn't sing, they didn't dance, they didn't do anything. They talked for 5 or 10 minutes. I suppose they were well paid for it, but I enjoyed it. We had Abby Lane, Xavier Cugat's wife, you probably don't remember her. Frank Sinatra, I'm sure you remember him. He was at our table. And a guy by the name of Buddy Hackett, I never heard of. He was a little short, kind of heavy guy, and he talked out of the side of his mouth like that. And, but he was very funny if you like dirty jokes. He was of the Lenny Bruce genre. He believed in free speech, and he thought telling dirty jokes was part of his free speech. And I guess it was, because he said, you know, I appear in nightclubs, people pay to see me. If you don't want to see this stuff, don't come in, stay away. He got arrested a couple of times for telling bad stories. Anyway, the first year I met him, we talked, and he seemed to take a liking to me, at least I thought he did. So the next year, we had the thing there again, and I saw him in the casino. He came over to me, he says, hey, you remember me? And I said, do I remember you? Buddy Hackett? Of course I remember you. He said, well, I kind of took a liking to you the last time, and I got a couple of jokes that I'm going to work out tonight, but I've never told them before. Let me work them out on you. I'm going to tell you one of those jokes. The other one I can't tell you, not on the air, not where there might be children or ladies or gentlemen. But I'm going to tell you this one. And if he told it on the Johnny Carson show, that's what brought it to mind. I was watching YouTube, and Johnny Carson show came up, and he was on it, and he told this joke I'm about to tell you. So this is a Buddy Hackett story. Little girl went into a drugstore. She's about 8 years old. And the druggist says, may I help you? And she said, yes, I'd like some tampons. And he said, oh? And she said, oh, they're not for me. Oh. They're for my brother. Oh? Yeah. She says, we were sitting home watching television, and we saw that if you have tampons, you can run, you can walk, you can play baseball, you can jog, you can do all these things. And he couldn't do any of those things. It's a Buddy Hackett story. I think it's funny. All right, we're going to go over and meet my guest. So don't go away. Take off your shoes, pour yourself your favorite beverage. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Glad to be. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the shortest 30 minutes on television. I have a guest with me today. We're going to talk to her. I just want to clear up something. This set that you see here is supposed to simulate Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was my hero. I thought he was the greatest thing that ever happened at television. Great comedian, he could get a laugh just by a look. You know, one of those looks that he gave. And the problem is we don't have enough staff or enough money to get a studio audience in here, which he had, or an orchestra like Doc Severinsen and his crew. So when I tell a joke, nobody laughs. So I assume that you people sitting at home are laughing. All right, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest now. Remember that I know her slightly, but I'm not sure what she's going to talk about. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. So let's meet Diane Finn. How are you, Diane?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Welcome here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Diane Finn, F-I-N-N.
F-I-N-N.
I suppose you've heard this a million times, but I knew your brother Mickey.
Yeah, that would be my husband's nickname,
Really?
Mickey Finn. Oh, sure.
Is this
Yes.
is his nickname Mickey?
Well, he was when he was in college, went to the Naval Academy, and while he was there, they called him Mickey Finn. Yeah.
I've never met your husband. I'm looking forward to it.
They also called him Huck. Huck Finn.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did.
He's one of my favorite characters in all of literature. Huck Finn, Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
You're here today because you wrote a book.
I did. I've written a couple books, but this one is the latest, and it's Witch's Brew and Mother Crew,
Okay.
Legends and Tales of Plymouth.
We're going to talk about that in a minute, but just let me see, where do you live? You live here in Carver?
I do. I live in South Meadow Village.
South Meadow Village?
Yes, I do. I love it
How
there.
long have you lived here?
Well, I've been in South Meadow Village 3 years. I lived in Plymouth, downtown Plymouth, for over 30 years. I was a teacher in the Plymouth schools.
Oh, no
for 30
kidding.
years.
You were a teacher.
I was.
What grade?
I taught 4th grade,
Fourth grade.
and then I retired, and I was actually offered a teaching position in a Catholic middle school up toward Boston.
Really?
And so I've been involved in education for over 40 years.
Oh, good for you. That's great. Where did you get your education?
Well, I went to Rivier College, a girls' Catholic college up in Nashua, New Hampshire. And
What's
I'm
the name of
originally
it?
Rivier, R-I-V-I-E-R, from Mother Rivier.
Oh.
And it's a girls' Catholic college. Very small school when I went there, all girls, and very strict rules. But I loved being there. And I'm originally from Fitchburg, Central Mass.
Fitchburg. Okay, we get that now. You have children?
I do. I have 3 children. My son deceased. He was 47. He just died 3 years ago, which is very sad. He was riding his bike and had a heart attack. My husband's had heart attacks and strokes. But then I also have 2 other children. I have a daughter who runs a restaurant in Marion called Brewfish, very popular restaurant.
Bluefish, I've heard of
Brew, B-R-E-W, Brewfish.
that. I've heard of that.
Yes.
In Marion.
Yes. They're in the top 8 of Phantom Gourmet, and it's a wonderful restaurant.
I'll have to try that.
And then I have a younger son. He lives in Savin Hill. And so 3 children and 5 grandchildren.
5 grandchildren. No great-grandchildren.
No greats yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, when I was a kid, grandmothers wore a pug in the back and long dresses. Now they're charming, personable women.
And busy ladies.
Yeah, busy. Thank God for that. I have to offer my condolences. It must be terrible to lose a son. It must be terrible. But let's not dwell on that.
Let's not.
I have 2 sons myself, and one's 62, and the other one's 57. And if I lost either one of them, I don't know what I'd do. I
It's
would go
difficult.
crazy, I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got all your personal information. Your husband, by the way, they should know, I like to point this out, your husband is a graduate of Annapolis.
He is. And I dated him when he was at Annapolis.
You
So
did?
they call it a drag when you're there as a date of someone who is at the Naval Academy. So I got to go to Army-Navy games and watch all these wonderful
Oh,
parades
gee, that's
and
great.
ring dances. It was very glamorous.
Yeah.
And then we married under the Arch of Swords, and that was very romantic. And then he went out to sea, and we were separated more than 70% of the time over 4 years. I had 2 babies. I was home, with one on each knee while he was out to sea for most of the time. So, so his early years were very romantic, but then the reality set in. It was a lot of hard knocks, but that's kind of what made me a stronger person.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Well, you're certainly a charming lady. I'll tell you that. What was his specialty? Did he have a specialty?
He was involved with the navigation part. So
Navigation.
he was on a ship that was out in Vietnam, out in the water, where they would take if a pilot was downed, they would send a helicopter and,
Oh, yeah.
and rescue the
Okay.
pilots. So
Okay.
that was.
So he's
his role.
Vietnam era.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what an interesting life you've led.
I have, and
Yeah.
I'm very excited about an event that I'm hosting for South Meadow Village, because there are over 530 homes, and I figure there have to be so many veterans and so many stories. So I came up with this idea to do a luncheon to honor them. So we're honoring veterans, spouses too, because they served in
Absolutely.
different way,
Absolutely.
and the widows, and so that's going to take place on Saturday at 11:30.
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
Okay, I wish this was a live show. It isn't. So it won't be seen until after the event.
Right.
But it's good that you let the people know that you are the champion of the veterans, and at least in South Meadow Village.
Trying.
And I'm sure all over the world.
Yeah, trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably, in my life, I want, at this stage of my life, to do as much as I can for veterans. We did some shows in Brockton, VA in Brockton, and I don't remember when I've had a better time interviewing disabled veterans. Now, that sounds funny, doesn't it? But these guys, because they're disabled, because they're kind of heroes, but they won't admit it, they don't think they are.
They don't think they are at all,
no.
and a lot of them don't want to tell their stories. They
So
just want
I
privacy.
interviewed a quadriplegic, is that the way to pronounce it? Okay. And he was in a wheelchair, of course. And off camera, I said, I like you. I like the kind of I said, what do you say after the show we go out and I'll buy you a drink? And he said, great, but no dancing. Isn't that great?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
the
just a
humor.
brave guy. So that's November 4th,
November
South
4th.
Meadow Village,
for
11:30.
for people in South Meadow Village. Yes, it's to be. Great.
When we did that show in Brockton, I got several calls at home, here, from Gold Star mothers, Blue Star mothers, Blue Star families, Gold
Yes.
Star families. They said, we are not angry, but we wonder why you don't do a TV show with us. We suffered too.
That's right.
We're heroes also. We feel that way.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, I said to myself, of course they are. Of course they are. This is
Sure.
what it's all about.
That's right.
All right. You wrote a book.
I did, and today is Halloween, so perfect to talk about a book about witches. With everybody's dressed up and
That's right.
celebrating and thinking that.
The name of the book is Witches Brew and Mother Crew. Legends of True Tales from Old Plymouth by Diane L. Finn. You told me on the phone that this is self-published.
That's correct.
Can you explain to the people what that means, self-published?
Well, first of all, I did tours for over 30 years in Plymouth, and so out of that, lots of research. My husband and I, it was a family business. And so with all that research, we came up with many, many stories that people love to hear. In fact, around every Halloween, people would come on our tours just to hear the story of Mother Crew, because it's a story that we researched that came from a book by Jane Goodwin Austen, not Jane Austen from England, but someone connected with Plymouth and Plymouth history. And she wrote a book about Dr. LeBaron and his daughters. And those graves are up on Burial Hill. There's LeBaron Alley. And so the story connects with Dr. LeBaron, but it's all about a woman from Plimpton named Elizabeth Crew that people call Mother Crew.
Oh, okay. With that tease, we're going to leave you. We're going to take a little break here. But I hope we've piqued your curiosity, because it's certainly piqued mine. I can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. So, again, take off your shoes, pour yourself your favorite beverage. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. And I am excited. I love a good story. I love to read. And I love authors. You know, what prompted you to write this book? Is this the first book you've ever written?
No, actually, the first book I wrote is called The Secrets of Plymouth Rock, and that's a children's book. And it came out of doing tours, and when I would do tours for people, the story of Plymouth Rock is fascinating. It's been dropped, it's been broken, it's been chiseled, it's been moved.
Yes.
But when you're telling that to young children, they really don't really get it. So one night I was doing a tour for kindergartners, and I had not a successful one the week before. And I said to my daughter, will you draw me some pictures of the rock with a face? And so just you have some samples.
Oh, you've got a picture there?
I think I've got some pictures. These were the kinds of pictures she drew for me. And it ended up being a book called The Secrets of Plymouth Rock. We didn't do it in color when we first did it, because every color, when you self-publish a book, means you do it yourself. You're putting the money up, you're doing the whole thing. And we decided the audience was a Plymouth audience and it should be self-published. So we went through 3 editions of this, but we only did it with blue and black and white because every color cost an extra $1,000 when you were self-publishing in 1988.
Wow.
So now we're in the process of redoing it. Like literally, as you speak, my daughter and I are working on bringing it in multiple colors. And we thought we'd have it in November. I think we're going to probably wait till spring to really launch it because it's a lot of parts, you know, when you do it yourself.
Can I see that book for just a minute? Yeah, I love this kind of stuff. You know, I love history.
The Plantation's already pre-ordered copies, and we know it'll be a big hit in the area because it was when we did it originally. So that was my first book. And
do you mind if I read an excerpt from this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is let's move the rock to town square, someone suggested. The next day, 20 oxen appeared to move me. This is the rock talking now. Chains were placed around me. I was frightened. Suddenly, the chains broke. I crashed to the ground, breaking in two. The crowd gasped. Everyone was silent and sad. And so someone exclaimed, "Why, this is a symbol of our separation from England. Let's take the top half of the rock to town square and leave the bottom half here." And that's all I'm going to read. If you want to know the rest, you've got to buy the book. But this is a children's book.
That's a children's book.
And it's well written. Is this the first one you've ever written?
That was the first book we wrote. And
when was this written?
1988.
1988.
If you look at the back, a picture of my daughter and I, and it's like...
It's 29 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
She's beautiful.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
She's absolutely gorgeous.
She is gorgeous. She
So are
is.
you, by the way. Okay, I love this kind of stuff. About the Secrets of Plymouth Rock. It's got illustrations. It's got, you know, what can I say? Every kid should read this book. Hey, every adult should read this book. I've heard the story.
A lot of teachers use it in their classrooms in the lower grades, and so we know once we can get it back in print again, you know, it'll be very popular. So we're looking forward to that. But then in the meanwhile,
what prompted you to write the book?
Well, because I was doing the tours and telling the stories, and so then I started using it on the tours, and teachers were coming up to me saying, you should make a book out of this. And my husband, who had his master's in business at that point in marketing, said, you know, you're just talking about it, when are you going to do it? And so we got together as a family. So my husband was the one that did the research on how to print it. My daughter did the illustrations and color separation. I wrote the story. So it was a real family, you know, family project, which is really super.
Great. That's so great.
Yeah.
You know, and your eyes, as she's telling me this, you can't see this probably, but her eyes are flashing. Like, she's really into this. She's really into this. And and you spent your money on this.
We did.
Is this available now for sale?
It is not available for sale right now. Again, we're in the process of, hopefully by spring we'll have it. We thought maybe November, but we just feel it's too many. We want to do it right.
Okay.
So
when it's for sale, I won't be able to tell the people when it's for sale. But do you have a website?
Well, I have a website, an old website from our tour company. It's still active, and it's lanterntours.com, www.lanterntours.com. So if people go on that site, we'll be able to gear them.
Convey the message. Lanterntours.com, right? www.
Right, and that's the website from our tour business that we did for over 30 years.
Is there a phone number?
There is on the website and an address.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. I would, as you well know, we always say, because it's a right thing to say, we do not endorse nor do we recommend any product or service you see on this show, or indeed on anything that Area 58 produces. But I do urge you to check it out. You make your own decisions on whether it's good or bad. That's up to you. We're not going to tell you.
Also, I'd like to add that currently our other book, my book, which is Brew Another Crew, that's currently available at Plymouth Plantation, at the Cranberry House on the waterfront, the Fine Line, and Windermere. And also even Simple Pleasures, which sells clothing. They sell my book, and a lot of people are kind of surprised and say, "Oh, wow, that's
Is it
that's
on
interesting."
anything like Amazon? Or
It is not yet on Amazon. I haven't gone that route. I've really been working on refining the book, because when I first wrote this book, I found errors in it. When you self-publish, sometimes you find mistakes in your own
So when
work.
you self-publish, do you also self-edit?
Well, I actually at some point have other people see,
Edit it?
because they have to. You
Yeah,
look at
you
your
do.
own work, you don't see your own mistakes.
Absolutely.
But even just, do I have the rights to things like the cover? And once I printed one version, I pulled it off because I wanted to make sure I did have the rights. And so I went back, and I had pulled that cover off of the internet. You know, I just saw it.
Really?
I thought, oh, that's an interesting picture. Ties in with the age of my story. And then I wondered, do I really have the rights to that? And I began to do some research, and it took me a long time, but I found that where it was in the London Library. And I started emailing back and forth to them, and they sent me the rights to use the picture at no charge, which was like Christmas to me. It was like really
Yeah,
excited.
that's great.
And
That's
then
good.
I further found that the picture had a real story that went with it. It's called The Witch in Newbury, which is not in my book. But inside of that story is this woman, and she's on a plank. And the soldiers don't realize this in 1640. They decide she's walking on water and she's a witch, and they end up killing her. And that's not in the book. The other thing in my book is about two women tried for witchcraft in Plymouth, and many people in Plymouth don't know that women were actually, you know, we think of
I
Salem.
thought that only happened in Salem.
Right, but it also happened in Plymouth, and so I won't tell you what happens to them. But if you read the book, you can find
in
out.
here?
It's yes. So, and along with some interesting ways witches were treated in the 17th century, like how, well, for example, if you were someone who gossiped a lot, God only knows, I could probably be in that category. You could be called a scold, and a scold could be put on a chair and dunked in and out of the water. It's called ducking, not dunking, but by the magistrates who decided that you needed to be punished for that. And the other one was, if they accused you of being a witch, they could tie your right thumb to your left toe and your left thumb to your right toe,
Oh,
put a
my
rope
word.
around you and stick you in water. And if you sank, that meant you probably weren't a witch, but you probably drowned. And if you rose to the top, you were dispelling water because you repelled baptism and you were a witch, so then they'd hang you. So there's some really
Wow.
amazing things that if you look into 17th century and some of those stories.
These two women that were witches in Plymouth, did they have trial?
There was a trial for them. But the first part of my book are 3 legends, and the legends are all about supposed witches in Plymouth and what happened to them and what their stories are, including Mother Crewe from Plimpton. And we're still in a search for her grave. Historians will tell me that that's not true. She didn't exist. She was all made up by the author. But in the preface of the author's book, she says, what I'm about to tell you is true, and truth is stranger than fiction.
True,
So I'm
that's for
still
sure.
on a search for Mother Crewe and Mother Crewe's grave. I don't know if we'll ever find it. Historians say we won't, but it's a lot of fun.
They're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun to share the stories with people.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Are there any male witches in here? What do they call them?
Warlocks or
Warlock,
witches.
yeah.
I don't know. Well, there's one story in there called the prayer test, and that was someone during the witch trials who actually was accused of being a witch, and he was the prayer belief was if you could recite the Our Father without any errors, then you would not be a witch. And in one case, this gentleman was put on the gallows, and he did recite it perfectly, but then they determined that it was probably the devil getting after him that allowed him to do that, and they hung him anyway.
Jeepers creepers. What a great bunch of people who were around in those days. How many witches did they execute in Salem? Do you remember that?
I really don't even know the numbers, but
It was
it's very
20 or
sad.
better. It was
It
20 or
was just
better.
a lot of hysteria, and in the time period, it's very
Have
sad.
you ever read anything about that? What caused the hysteria?
Well, some people think, I believe it was like something in the bread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some sort of.
Yeah.
Because the one
kind of mold.
The mold
Yeah.
that caused that kind of fits and hysteria
Yeah.
and so forth. Yep.
Yeah. Isn't it strange that people who were supposed to be intelligent would fall for that, would actually kill people
Right.
because they thought they were witches?
Right.
How long did it take you to write this?
Oh, I probably worked on it off and on for about a year. And one of the things at the end of my book is I have a reflection, a personal reflection, like why would I want to write a book
Yeah.
about witches because I feel I'm out to make the world a better place, and I'm not sure that topic is appropriate for the image I wanted to create. And so I did a self-reflection about how words matter, and in the case of people that are spewing out all this venom, that it does impact people in their lives, and that's sort of what those legends talk about, and how words can heal or words can kill and hurt. And so it's sort of in this little reflection that I wrote in the end of my book to kind of justify to myself why would I want to promote a book like this.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this, if I may.
Please do.
I'm just going to randomly turn to a page, and son, the entail. Is it okay if I read this? It's a family show,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Son, the entail could be set aside, and it shall be, I will claim this property to which you presume to tell me I have no right, and then I will take measures to secure your obedience, or I will turn you and your witch's brat of a wife upon the world with a father's curse for your only inheritance. Thomas raged. Yes, Philip, a witch's brat for a bride, once and for all. I forbid you to visit or even speak with her again. I forbid you, do you understand? And that's all I'm going to read on that, because...
That's Bethia Hazel's Revenge, and again, these stories come from the 1800s, written, about things that happened in the 1700s, supposedly in Plymouth.
You hit me right in the heart with this stuff, because I love this stuff. I've been to Salem 5 or 6 times. And I never could find where the burial ground was, where the hanging tree was. It's not in Salem.
It's not in Salem, no.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
I asked people in Salem, they didn't know. It's in Peabody or something like that.
Right, yeah. It's outside of Salem. I'm not quite sure what the town is, but yes.
It was I was reading, if they put you in the water and you drowned, it meant you were innocent. But you're still dead. But if you came to the surface, you didn't drown, they executed you.
Exactly.
Crazy. It's crazy. All right, we're short for time now. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people about the book before we leave?
Well, no. I mean, it's Halloween. Happy Halloween! And
yes.
If you really enjoy witch stories, then go to the Cranberry House or Plymouth Plantation Gift Shop or the Fine Line,
and they'll find this book.
You'll
there.
find the book there. And
again, the name of it is Witch's Brew and Mother Crew: Legends of True Tales from Old Plymouth.
Right. By
Diane L. Finn. Remember that.
I'm also working on another adult book called The Naughty Pilgrims.
The Naughty Pilgrims?
And that's
K-N-O-T-T-Y or N-A-U-G?
That's Naughty, N-A-U-G-H-T-Y. That's basically all the court records of the Pilgrims from the 17th century. Is it going to be kind of racy? It's an adult book.
It's an adult book. Good for you. Good for you.
But it's humorous. It's humorous because the kinds of things that were, horrible and shocking and terrifying in the 17th century, some of them today we would just roll our eyes. Like not going to church services and so forth.
We've got to leave, Diane. Thank you so much for being here. You've done a great job. And for you people sitting out there, don't think you got rid of me. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back with another guest. And I can't wait, because it's you I love. Until next time, keep a song in your heart. And goodbye and God bless.